Hey folks, how's it going? RedMaster here, and welcome back to another Red Team Games sequel game video, where today we're going to be going over another game mode set to return inside of the sequel, and that is the return of the campaign. Now, while newer players may be familiar with the single player experience in the existing game, older veterans might remember a time where single player was not reserved for just practice mode. Now, in the day, it was a way for players to maybe collect more cards or be able to solve, various puzzle-like scenarios, teach them more about, their cards, giving them a chance to maybe perfect their own deck through putting them through certain scenarios. And while the campaign did do that in the first game, I think the sequel campaign is set to do a lot more than that, and I'm really excited to share with you more on why that is. So, as of now, the campaign of the sequel is still set to be a single-player experience for players who may be looking for an escape from the multiplayer grind. Obviously, if maybe you're not feeling too keen on what's going around on the ranked ladder, you have a chance to go into the campaign. However, the campaign is set to develop world building for this game unlike its predecessors, so finally establishing some much needed lore for this game's universe, bringing us more life to the characters we're actually using. And on top of that, it's going to set to be a core feature of the game, set to kind of rival or, really work together with the multiplayer aspect to create a much more enjoyable product, which I think is fantastic. I mean, I really love, campaign and storytelling in my video games, so this is set to already be like a very exciting prospect. But how exactly will it work? What is the idea behind the campaign? What are we going to be seeing in it that makes it different from the original? Well, in this campaign, players will be completing sets of missions for each game's factions. Right now, the plans dictate that each faction will get around maybe 6 to 7 missions per faction, and these missions will aim to shed more light on the various strategies and cards within each faction. On top of this, unlike the previous campaign, the game will give you specific decks for each mission, and it'll be up to the player to figure out how exactly the cards given will guide them to victory. And on top of that, each deck holds a nice little story aspect to it as well, so it's as you, progress throughout the campaign, you might find the deck changing and evolving based upon what you go through in the campaign. As a bit of a spoiler, you might actually see some combination between other factions as well. Just based upon what you're doing inside of the story, it goes to show that what, happens in it affects how you play the game as well, which is really cool to see. And of course, as you go throughout the campaign, more factions will become unlockable as you progress through your exploits. They all won't be immediately playable. They have to be earned, which I think is, again, fantastic as well. You're not exactly, like, buying the campaign like you were in the first game where, each time a new set of campaign missions dropped, This time you're getting, a whole lot of campaign features out there. Although, I probably shouldn't talk about that since that isn't confirmed as of yet. But what about the missions themselves? What, they look like? We're already seeing, as a mission plays out on the screen in front of you, how exactly do they differ from the missions inside the previous campaign? How will they be unique in their own sense? Well, I've already mentioned that they will contain some preset decks for players. However, each mission will vary in their objectives and in their difficulty. As of now, there is no difficulty filter for the missions, and while some may be easier than others, there will not be a way to kind of tone up or down the difficulty or how hard a mission will be. It'll be up to the players and their skills to really make it through the entirety of the campaign. It's going to be up to you guys to actually complete the campaign through the skills that you learn and through the, learning about the strategies within your deck. On top of that, I mentioned objectives being different, some variety inside of them. The game has 5 distinct mission types that players will encounter, and they are as follows. Normal missions will be our first one, which is a somewhat standard CNC matchup, similar multiplayer matchup here where your goal is to just knock down the enemy castle, much like again in a normal matchup. Following that, you have hero missions where not only you have to knock down the opposing castle and keep your castle alive, you're also protecting a hero alive, and that hero does correspond to your faction. Like, for example, with the Vikings, as you'll see in a moment here, the hero will be Ragnar. Other factions will receive their own heroes, which you will learn about later. I'm not going to spoil that for you here. You can maybe make some guesses and predictions, but I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys at that point. Following that, you've got defense missions, which is actually similar, or is exactly this mission you're seeing right here. This mission is classified as a defense mission, where you're going to need to defend your castle from oncoming waves of enemy units here, and the mission won't end until you've defeated every enemy on the board. It's very straightforward there. Following that, you've got monster missions, where you're going to need to defend your castle from oncoming waves of enemy units, much like how defense missions work. But on top of that, you have to really neutralize an enemy boss unit in order to win the mission here. You don't have to kill every enemy, but you do have to kill a big boss unit, which varies based on the mission that you're doing here. And it won't come right away. It does sort of spawn as you progress through the mission here, so it's not like you're going to be dropped into the mission and say, hey, you know, there's your big boss right there, go kill it while it, you know, stomps you. No, it kind of gradually leans you into it, and you'll be fighting off, you know, smaller enemies as you get to that big boss. But that's only 4 missions. There is one final mission, the Big Boss mission, where you're going to be knocking out the opposing castle while also keeping a hero alive, but additionally neutralizing an enemy hero. So really there's 4 different aspects in there. Protect your castle, protect your hero, neutralize an enemy, or protect your castle, protect your hero, neutralize the enemy castle, neutralize an enemy hero. 4 aspects. I had to make sure that was right for a second there. But yes, it is set to be the hardest missions encounterable in the game, noted by the dev team as being hero missions on steroids. So those are sort of the big missions, probably reserved for, I potentially imagine, you know, your end game for a faction here. So like getting to the end of the Vikings will yield you a boss mission. Getting to the end of the Crusaders will yield you a boss mission. I assume that. I don't actually know that for a fact. That's just going off of maybe what I assume as a boss mission will be. So yeah, excited how there's different diversity within the factions and mission types. Really curious on how exactly players are going to be kind of getting through them, especially since, you know, boss missions. I haven't played through one yet, but that sounds to be a really big task. So I'm hoping it follows through on being a difficult challenge. However, though, that does bring us to our final tidbit here. Well, I will say, I mean, as much as I can reveal about the campaign to you now, it is estimated that the campaign in its entirety will take around 10 hours for players to complete. And that is not taking into account the potential that players may end up losing, you know, here and there. So a lot of content being put in for players to enjoy. And I'm really looking forward to putting a playthrough onto my channel, honestly, because it's just set to be an amazing experience. But you know, that's just what I have written down, as well as my own additional thoughts on top of it. I really do love the prospect of campaign, excuse me, returning to the game. It was always a mode that I quite enjoyed here. And on top of that, being able to kind of watch this in-game universe play out and experiment with the lore, especially because, you know, with the whole mana incorporation, that's set to be a major revelation for this game's universe. So now seeing that as a story play out is incredible. And of course, giving players that necessary escape from the multiplayer grind is, you know, fantastic too. You know, even today in the existing product, you kind of see players who are just a little tired maybe of, you know, constantly going on to the multiplayer grind, maybe just based on the metagame, based on how they're feeling. Maybe they're not really 100% in the multiplayer, but feel like they just want to play anyway. But there's no other option to do it. They have practice mode, but it's not as satisfying, you know, especially since the practice has really devolved over the years. And same with the ranked ladder. It's kind of just taken a toll for the worse that it's been sort of left to its being for, you know, the past few years. Not to saying that it's terrible, but it is what it is here, as my video slows down here. There we go. I think that's where we left off. But yeah, it's certainly set to be a really exciting return for the game, and I'm really looking forward to it. But let me know what you guys think of the return of campaign. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Tell me why in the comments below. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it. Obviously, everyone's thoughts are different, but I assume a lot of people did love the campaign in the first one. Maybe not loved, but certainly enjoyed it. And hopefully maybe this campaign in CNC2 will ignite that same energy here. I mean, look at the full arts, guys. Look at the full arts. It's fantastic stuff. But yeah, let me know if if you enjoyed this video here. Be sure to like if you did, share it with friends, and of course comment, as well as subscribe if you're new or haven't done so already. Help support the channel, help us grow in any way that you can, and stay tuned for more news on the sequel. But with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for me for now. Until next time, stay gaming.